Welcome back to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex, and today we're going to be taking a look at Crysis 2 Remastered on the Nintendo Switch. The first entry in the series that was a surprisingly solid port, but do we get the same here, or should you save your cash? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. So Crysis 2, it sets itself 3 years after the events of the original game. Opening this one though, it's established New York is in rough shape after a breakout of the Manhattan virus. Think death, destruction, aliens, all that good stuff. You though are Alcatraz, a soldier on his way to fight back. When the submarine you are on board, it gets destroyed. You escape, but moments later you are gunned down in the water. Now this would be a very quick game if it ended there, but Prophet picks you up, and for spoilers sakes, I won't give too much detail on the circumstances, but you're equipped with a nanosuit and drafted to be a member of Delta Team, which is largely just you on this kind of one-man mission of destruction with characters in your ear giving direction. Get out there though now and uncover the truth about New York, fight back against SAL, a private military group, and then of course kill some alien scum. The story's decent, there's a few characters along the way to kind of switch things up that you'll be talking to. The story, I will say it isn't anything new, but it is high stakes, and it paints a very bleak future for New York. So gameplay, and what we have here is a first-person shooter for the few that may not be aware. Now Crysis was groundbreaking on release. The second and third entry more think, just delivering more the same. But that's fine with me because its core gunplay is just so good. Now there's a decent selection of guns in here. First off, there's around 15, and these really fit into like a few categories. That's assault rifle, shotguns, submachine guns, snipers, and sidearms. Along the way then though, there's a few more temporary heavy weapons and explosives to use as well. The first thing about gunplay that I really like, it's a simple system, but customization. Dependent on the weapon in hand, you'll be able to change up the scope, maybe add a silencer, maybe an underbody attachment as well. Having that little extra flexibility really plays into the strategy with this one, because while the gunplay is solid, it's not always the best option, and stealth may be the kind of go-to option, and that's where your nanosuit also comes into the mix. It adds abilities for Alcatraz like the option to go invisible, my favourite for silent neck-breaking takedowns, or any gun with a silencer. There's an armor mode which is both good for intense movements, but also traversal as well. You also then get this super jumper sword alongside more tactical options as well, like scanning for heat signatures and also tagging enemies. Like the gun then, the nanosuit is customizable with modules, and I really like this feature. There's 12 perks in total across, let's say, 4 categories, but you can only add one at a time from each, so just make sure you're going to max them out, so you'll need to kind of switch them in and out as well. My favourites though were the armor and the mobility enhancements. They are early options, but they seem to make a huge impact. Options are good though, and I always appreciated this element of the design, and you can only unlock them by collecting what's called a nano catalyst, which involves basically a whole lot of killing. Outside of that though, the gameplay largely comes down to exploration and reaching objectives that are marked on your map in the lower left of the screen. There's a nice amount of variety here though, and the super jump ability, it leads to some real acrobatic moments as you're working to get, like an optimal position before you go ahead and fire that first shot, something few first-person shooters give us, and this is a good thing because as experiences go, I've got to say it's less almost open world compared to the original games like Jungle, because this one it is city streets. It makes things a whole lot easier on the navigation side, but it definitely feels more linear. Adding in that climbing though makes it feel just a little bit different still to your typical shooter. Problems wise, it can be a little long-winded at times when setting up that next marker you need to hit on this map. You'll reach your objective and then you're going to be forced to wait, let's say 5 minutes while the dialogue plays out, setting up that next moment. Logically, of course, that makes sense, but I was eager to get going. And then also the checkpoints in game. As I said, it's not a particularly easy game, this one, and they can be pretty few and far between. So sometimes when you die, you'll be rerunning set pieces over and over, and I'd be lying if I didn't say kind of got a little frustrating at moments. I just wish the game was a little more accommodating in its kind of autosave feature. The final issue for me on gameplay, the gyro controls, they work just fine, but it's all or nothing here. That's the only option, meaning no matter what you are doing, move your controller and the game will move. I wish it had the option to just like work when you're aiming down the scope. That is my preferred way to play with gyro. I actually ended up turning it off because that constant kind of feedback from the controller, it felt like too much to kind of monitor, and as in like more panic inducing moments. Outside of that though, good stuff honestly. It packs a few difficulty options to make sure no matter your skill level you can find somewhere to jump in. They've removed all multiplayer options, so do not come here looking for that. It's single player only. And then the frame rate, it is solid. It's sticking for the majority to 30 FPS with the occasional minor drop in like heavy combat moments. But mainly this occurs as you move from location to location. There's a stutter as it loads things in, but it's swift. And it also won't happen in a gunfight or like anything else that is too intense. So yeah, look, I'm impressed with gameplay and it's another impressive port to the Switch. So graphics, and it's always been a stunning looking game. It was ahead of its time at release like the original, and it stands up to this day, but how have they managed on the Switch? Well, mostly I like what we get. The graphics retain a good majority of the detail in this world, and there's more than a few moments that will absolutely stop you in your tracks just so you can take in the scenery. Think good detail in the world though, a nice recreation of New York City, and a whole lot of like lighting and visual effects like explosions, spaceships flying overhead that really pack a decent punch. Problems wise then, there's pixelation and the image can be a little soft at times, especially as you move into larger locations. Pretty sure we're working with like, you know, an adaptive resolution here. It's going up and down because that soft image, it definitely seems to fluctuate. I also noticed some issues with shadows as well, where it appears they've cut frames on things like spaceships just to get them into the game. Overall though, look, it's a great looking game and I think they made the right cuts here so they could target that 30 frame rate. So audio finally, and it's decent. I've always been a fan of the soundtrack with this one, and that still is awesome, but it's also a little weird at times, the sound design in general. First, the good weapons sound heavy, the aliens and the enemies threatening enough to keep you on the edge of your seat. And some of the set pieces, like the early road that collapses, they have a fantastic sound field behind them to back them up. That said, it's a little weird also, the audio on the Switch. 90% of the time it's fine, but occasionally the game goes near silent, like they forgot to add sound effects. And then the music to the scene, the mix sounds a little bit off as they blast that music really kind of quite loud at points compared to the sound effects. You have volume options in the menu of course, but it's a core implementation issue where a few moments are off, so turning down the music in the menu isn't going to help you. It's just going to make, you know, the good moments too quiet. And there we have it, Crysis 2 is on the Switch, and overall it's a great port. For some though, the lack of multiplayer may be an issue, and I agree that is a missed opportunity. Also for others, they'll only play a shooter at 60 frames per second, which I get, but I just don't think you can complain here. You're taking Crysis 2 on the go. I think it's well done, they've cut the right corners, and look, if you like some good old first person action with, you know, enough tweaks in here to make it feel a little bit different, this is gonna be a must add to that buy list. There is no question about it. It didn't redefine the genre like the original game, but it brought back a lot of the things we all loved, and it was a good time heading back to New York City in this world for the Nintendo Switch. A great 8 out of 10 from me today. It's a fantastic shooter that has a few shortcomings, but look again, and I said this on the review with the first entry, there's something special about the idea of having Crysis just in the palms of your hands, and that's how I played this entry for the most part. I was in handheld as I travelled with family, and really, honestly, seriously impressive. Will you be adding this one to the library then, or are you holding onto that cash? A shout out then to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.